Yo, what's up? What's up? It's the Hungry Millennial back again with yet another Proactive Pragmatism. On this Proactive Pragmatism, I'd like to talk to you about keeping it simple. Be basic. And when I say be basic, I mean, if there's something, a goal that you want to achieve, start with the baseline in that industry. Start gaining the baseline knowledge. So that way you have something to build off of. When you have something to build off of, it's going to do three things. It's going to alleviate pressure. It's going to build a strong, solid foundation for years to come. And it's going to increase your upside exponentially. So let's get into it. So when I say alleviates pressure, right? If you start off basic, you learn all the tools along the way that are going to make you successful. And like for me with podcasting, right? I was like, let me start off with what I can do. And my first podcast was on audio and it was in my car. It was kind of visual, but I had a smartphone and I had some life experience, but I didn't have a lot of it. But at first that was a deterrent. But there was one thing that I knew. I knew that I was passionate about what I was talking about. And where there's passion, there's smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And once you start getting the wheels rolling into the right direction and you actually start, right, you're going to alleviate a lot of pressure because after a while, podcasting kind of becomes what you do. If you're an artist, if you do, painting, you know the basics of a paintbrush. So at any point in time, if you get further along in your career, you know how to pick up the basics. I think a big problem that we have now is people have this pressure to become an instant success. They want to be successful overnight, and that's just not sustainable. And so you want to give yourself all the opportunities to win, and all of those opportunities to win are found in the basics. It's like in the military, we do land navigation, right? So, one of the baselines of land nav, land nav is being able to learn how to read a map. What does green mean? What does blue mean? What does red mean? What is the azimuth? What are grid coordinates? How do you read those, right? Because if you jump straight into, hey, here's a compass, go find where you are and go figure out where you are, and you may not have a point of reference. And here's the other thing about pressure, though, is even when you're further along and you become a professional at what you do, the basics will help reorient you to all of your goals. And it's going to help set that foundation. So with a foundation, if I get off path, if I get off azimuth in land navigation by 1 degree, that can put me in a totally different area, depending on how many miles out I go, right? So one thing that we talk about in the military is a back azimuth, is where you start at at that point. So set a back azimuth, in your life, and it's going to help you build a foundation so you can get back to the basics, figure out, okay, well, let me recalculate this. Maybe I wasn't where I thought I was on the map of my life, of my career, of the skills that I needed to succeed at this level. Because, it's one of those things where after you have the basics and you've built that foundation can be reoriented to something else. If you learn about the process and how long it took for you to gain certain skills in one area, you can apply that to sales. You can apply that to marketing. But if you forget your baseline and you don't have a foundation, you're setting yourself up for failure. So here's the other thing, is being basic and keeping it simple increases your upside exponentially. So when you start at the bottom level, you can take it anywhere. It's like, for instance, right? If you're I remember when we were, I was playing middle school basketball, I had to work on the fundamentals. And after you get the fundamentals down, Chris Bosh actually talked about this. He was like, he was a really good mid-range jump shot shooter. But the problem is at the time that he had integrated into the NBA when he was playing for Toronto, at the time there were a handful of big men that were shooting from the 3-point line. And then one time, he was working on his jump shot and he ended up talking to another player and it was like, just step back a foot. And when he stepped back a foot, he gained that confidence of being able to shoot the jumper, shoot the tray. So by the time that it came, there was an opportunity for him to join the Miami Heat with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. By the time that he had moved over to that opportunity, he was a 3-point shooter, and they were individuals that could drive to the basket and dunk. They can do all types of amazing things in the lane. So he could alleviate that pressure, pull back, pull up the jump shot. But at the same time, he's a big man, so he could take it to the cup and he could dunk on just about anybody. And in this reference, he also talks about how when he talks about early on when when I believe it was UCLA basketball. It was one of those West Coast teams. He talks about how originally his coach, or one of the coaches that he had admired, John Wooden, would talk about the basics. So he had this baseline pyramid, and in that baseline pyramid, at the bottom, it was how to tie and lace up your shoes. And I think it's interesting that so many times people want to go get, whether when it's podcasting, like I've been there, you want to go get the latest camera. You want to go get, you want to have the biggest YouTube channel and all of those things, but you don't understand how the algorithms work to set you up for success. But if you keep it basic, I still have like a little Logitech camera. I go to, Amazon and, get like different lights and experiment with those and see how that works and different backgrounds and different things like that. Once you figure that out, you can, master other things. But it's also one of these things, right? The basics, they help keep you grounded. They kind of keep you safe from, getting the instant clout and then fizzling really fast, right? Because when you're basic, right, and you're talking about something of substance, a lot of things that like people really need, they don't need them until they need them. So if you start off with 10 subscribers, or if you start off with just a handful of people that support you, right, you're used to being at the bottom. But if you go from one, subscriber or one view to 10 million, it's going to be really, really hard to replicate that 10 million, right? It's going to be really hard to replicate that 100,000 if you don't have a baseline, if you haven't been basic, right? That's why you see, a lot of people, who, inherit money per se. They blow a lot of it because they don't know what it took to get it. It's valueless to them. They don't have they don't actually have an accurate assessment of what those dollars mean, how to get that money back, how to get those things back. But you take a star, for instance, like Jay-Z, right? He started on the block doing some illegal activities, possibly, maybe, possibly not. I'm not going to speculate, right? But at the same time, he started off as a street guy. So that hustle, he just had to reorient that into something else. And it increased his upside exponentially. So continue to, try to increase your upside. Continue to try to improve, to get better at your craft, whatever it is. And you will see that even when you fail, the basics will hold you up. The basics will keep you in line. So, this is the Hungry Millennial back again with yet another Proactive Pragmatism. I appreciate you guys and gals. Stay tuned. Keep tuning into the podcast. We've got a lot of, different heat coming up. We still have our series Millennials Are. Cranking those out is pretty awesome. I got some pretty awesome people coming, to share their stories as millennials and their trials and tribulations so we can all learn and level up and grow. So if you have any questions or any inquiries for the podcast, you can reach us at PROPRAG20@gmail.com. That is proprag20@gmail.com. Thank you.